Hello friends, and welcome to the Hanged Man in the Moon. If this is your first time here, welcome. Thank you for coming. I'm pleased to meet you. If you've been here before, thank you for returning. I'm truly honored. Friends, if you are a returning visitor, you know that this is my series in which I'm doing a deep dive into a deck called the Egyptian Tarot by C.C. Zane and the Brotherhood of Light. And this is a deck that is asking me to expand my ability to read with astrology in Tarot, which is a journey I began with a different deck, which I did a deep dive to about 6 or 7 months ago, called the Tarot of the Holy Light. Now, if this is your first time here, let me give you a brief rundown of what I do when I do a deep dive. This is my second time doing one of these deep dives, and what I do is I take the deck that I'm trying to learn, and I shuffle the deck, and I draw a daily draw card for the next day. The question I ask is, what would I benefit from giving attention to in the following day? Now, for this deck, I have 2 copies. I've got my mass market color version, which is still very readily available, even on Amazon.com. And I have a very out-of-print mass market charcoal gray and white version of the same deck. So I shuffle the color version because I can replace that if I need to. And I pull my daily draw. And then I pull the matching card from my out-of-print deck and I look at them very carefully, side by side. Notice the differences, notice the similarities. Usually they're almost the same, but there are differences. And then, to help me unpack that daily draw card, I do a 3-card spread with a different deck. And the deck I'm using for this one is the Tarot of the Holy Light, which I'm beginning to be a little bit more comfortable with, a little bit more, not fluent, but yeah, easier to read than it was when I first got it out of the box. But it's also a deck that has asked me to begin thinking about and considering working with tarot and astrology together. So this has been the beginning of a journey, right? And so that's what I do. I do a 3-card spread with the Tarot of the Holy Light. The first card is the significance of the daily draw card for me for the following day. The second card is the challenge for me, either positive or negative. And the third card is the advice. Typical 3-card spread. And then I go to sleep and I wake up and the next day I live my life. And at the end of the day, I come back and I analyze the spread that I did and the daily draw card and how they communicated with each other and how those meanings and associations either reveal themselves to me during the day, or perhaps I still need to do a little more of a reflection or a little bit more of a dive, or I might need to wait a little bit longer for them to reveal themselves to me. Yeah? Not everything is cut off into 24-hour packets in life, is it? So that's what I do, that's what I'm doing, and here we go. I've got my daily draw card all set up, and here it is. You saw that the card for today was the Ace of Wands, right? And if you have been following me on this journey, you'll know that the daily draw I got yesterday was the Magus, and the card that helped me unpack the significance of that card from the Tarot of the Holy Light was the Ace of Wands. Now today, the Egyptian Tarot is showing me the Ace of Wands as the significance of today, right? And let me show you that card again right there. They're very similar in both editions, right? There's one more star in the constellation in the background for the color card, the colored version of it, than there is in the charcoal gray and white version of the card. Yeah, there are 3 stars here, there are 4 here, but they're both pointing to the same constellation, which we'll get to in just a moment. You also see that the associations are the same. Yeah, we have Aries, and at the bottom we have Aries, and at the bottom we have the planet Mars. It should be right there, right? Yes, right there, the planet Mars. So what is this card telling us? It's telling us that the Ace of Wands points to the Aries decanate of Aries and its subruler Mars, from which the cardinal aspect of cardinal fire's vital attributes enter our world, enter into our natal charts, and enter into the question that we've posed to the Tarot. So again, Aries, you probably already know this, but all of the zodiacal signs are broken down into 3 decanates. Now 3 groups of 10 degrees, a decanate. And this is the first decanate of the first sign, Aries of Aries. And it's the domicile of Mars. So we've got Mars beaming through Aries, and in the house of Aries, into the answer to the question. Which is cool. Yeah, Mars hasn't been messed up by anybody yet, so Mars is marching forward with joy and balance, and yeah. So, oh yes, the constellation. The constellation at the top of this card is Triangulum. Triangulum. Let me show you that constellation right now. Triangulum. A triangle, right? Triangulum has been known to humans for millennia. Yeah, it was known as the plow in ancient Babylon, and it's notable. I'm reading from Wikipedia as the first constellation presented on and given its name to as a pair of tablets containing canonical star lists that were compiled around 1000 BC. So about 3,000 years ago, there are a pair of tablets, and on those tablets there are stars and constellations, and the first constellation on the list is this constellation, Triangulum, and the tablet is named for this constellation because it's the first one up there. That makes sense, right? There's really not that much associated with this constellation except for it being up there. The Babylonians saw it as when this constellation appeared on the horizon in the early morning, so that would be like the last constellation rising for the day. When it appeared there, like I said, it's the plow. They would start plowing their fields. Yeah, that was the time to begin for the next cycle of harvesting. And it happened to fall at the end of February, usually for them. For the Greeks, they don't see it as a plow. They see it as a triangle. They saw it either as the Nile Delta or the letter delta. And then when that moved over to Rome, the Romans adopted it, and they saw it as the Isle of Sicily, which was named at that time not Sicily, but Trinacria because of its shape, Trinacria. And the patron saint, that's Catholic. This is the days of the gods of the Olympians. So the patron goddess was Ceres. So we've got a kind of extended reference to Ceres in this constellation. And there's a tradition that Ceres wanted modern Sicily, that island, to be up in the stars, and she asked, this would be Jupiter, because it's Roman myth, asked Jupiter, right? Jupiter, Juno, yes, that's Rome, yes. Okay, Zeus, Hera, Jupiter, Juno, Rome, yes. So she asked Jupiter to put Sicily up in the stars, and so that's what we've got here. Don't get much meaning from that, except for idea of triangles, and the delta is at least mathematically the sign of change, maybe. We have the beginning of harvest, perhaps with Babylonians, the plowing, the preparations for harvest in this constellation. Perhaps that's the best significance that we can draw from that group of mythology for this constellation. The idea of the plow, the beginning of stuff, the preparations for stuff, right? Being the cardinal aspect of cardinal fire that we're talking about. And that cardinal fire's attributes entering our world. So, what is the significance of the card according to the guidebooks? Well, we've got a lot of stuff about business. News of a business opportunity, activity, business activity of a mental nature, thinking about business, a business trip, aggressive intellectual pursuits, new activities on the job. Now, none of this rang true for me, being as today is Sunday here, and I was planning on staying home, but I'll just give you what they tell us. A new venture to benefit reputation, honor gained from mental activity. A lot of mind here too, business and mind. Scientific trends in business, analysis in personal affairs, a business conference, defensive action to protect honor. So that's another echo of the honor. Challenge damaging aggression. Challenge demanding aggression. So something could be difficult, which calls for aggression to solve, I guess. Initiative taken. And then the last one was a telephone call. Okay. So we got a lot of ideas of, again, business opportunities, thinking about business, and a little bit about scientific approaches, perhaps, which would have made me think more of, like, I don't know, Aquarius than Aries, but here we are. That random thing, a telephone call, which I would have thought of as more of an air suit kind of significance. However, we've got it here. Communication, but mental activity and business and new starts and news about that stuff too, which I guess is where we get the idea of a telephone call. So this card really needed unpacking for me, particularly as it could reference me today. So I did a 3-card spread. Let me show you those cards right now. You saw I got, from left to right, a lot of majors: Death upright, the Fool upright, and then the 3 of Wands reversed. And just in case you don't know, every time I shuffle this deck, I shuffle in reversals. So having 2 uprights and only 1 reversal in this spread is significant, I think. And then the first 2 cards being upright and only the last one being a reversal is also, I believe, significant. And yeah, Death being the first card. Death doesn't really the Death card does not freak me out in the tarot anymore. Freaks me, it might disturb me a little bit in reverse, but as an upright card, the Death card, and frankly, even the Tower and the Devil don't really bother me that much when I work with reversals. When they come up in reverse, then I start, my back starts going a little bit, I'm not sure I like this, but upright, I kind of like these cards. And let me show you. Instead of, here I go into a reverie right here for you on camera. Here we go with the Death card. And in the Death card, what do we see? We see these huge skeletal figures up in the sky. Not surprising for a Death card. Skeletons and death in the tarot are a natural match. And then we see this, what looks like a ruined building or a church, or maybe even the corner of the ruins of a city. Reminds me of the ruins you might see in Italy, for example. Yeah, Sicily, Italy, right? We see one body in what looks like a grave, surrounded by wrapped up in the coil of a dragon. We see in the background, we see a woman dragging a male form's body, or pushing the male form's body. It's hard to tell. Is she dragging it or is she pushing it head first? We got some fire in the background, but there's another female figure way in the distance here, but I haven't really figured her out yet. The significance for this card is water, which is interesting. Yeah. In the Thoth deck, the Death card is associated with Scorpio, which is a water sign. Here we've just got plain old water. which is cool. And we also can think of the Hebrew letter mem, which is womb, and the waters of life as well. We can think of the rune Iwaz, which looks like a line with like two, how do I describe it? Like there's a line and there's half of an arrow here and half of an arrow here. Yeah? Which is the symbol of the yew from which bows are made. So there's that resilience, that faithfulness, the strength and bendability of a yew tree, of yew wood. But it's also a sign for wisdom, endurance, protection, and initiation. All very, very positive things. Well, so is the womb for birth and the waters of life. So why is that associated with the death card? Well, because the death card, as we know, is not really about death. It's the transition from one thing to the other. It's the alchemical furnace of transmutation, where the dross is burned away and the gold is revealed, right? It's the dissolving in the compost heap and stripping away. It's the pruning, sometimes also the harvesting. It's the time of outgrowing the old self to experience a new identity. It's rising from the ashes like a phoenix. It's all of these wonderful things. It's a rebirth. It's a transformation as well, especially when it's upright. And today, as I was thinking about this, as related to the Ace of Wands. Now, this is not standard tarot theory, practice, conception, but this is me. It's always struck me that it's kind of odd that we go from the Hanged Man to death, to temperance, to the devil, to the Tower, to the Star. Now, there seems like a redundancy in there in some ways, that we go from death to temperance, and then the devil, and then the Tower, and then the Star, right? Has that ever struck you as somehow redundant in a way? That we got the breaking down of stuff and the combining, and then we got another kind of underworld entrapment, and then another breakdown of stuff, and then the hope. The two breaking down being death and the Tower. And I mean, it could be that kind of a cycle of we break down, we recombine, we get trapped in what we've combined, and then we need to break out and to find our hope. Sure. But in another way of looking at it, there's a kind of, like I said, redundancy. Getting us, from what I'm seeing, from the Hanged Man to the Star. And of course, I think about this because I identify myself as the Hanged Man, and it seems like a really weird path to get from there to the Star. And so today it just kind of struck me that, well, what about this? What if these are two different paths to get to the Star from the Hanged Man? One path being dying to the old, we go from the new perspective, the turning upside down of our world, and we have one path being the allowing of the death of the old for the rebirth of the new, for the transform, which leads us to temperance, which is an alchemical transformation which would skip over to the Star. Or you get the other path of you don't do that work and you get trapped. You go from the turning upside down. You don't go the route of the transformation, of the chrysalis, of the butterfly, and you get stuck where you are, in the devil. And then the only way to get unstuck then is the Tower, and then you get to the Star. So there are like two paths leading to the Star. One, I think, more gentle, where you allow the transformation of death and like I said, transformation. We move into the alchemy of the combination of the new, we move to the star. Or you don't allow that transformation, you get stuck in the devil, and you have to have a more jarring transformation with the tower of the cracking open and then getting to the star. Does that make sense? So let's see if I get the star tomorrow. But the way we're unpacking the Ace of Wands for me for today is this idea of transformation, which kind of makes sense, right? So to get the Ace of Wands, the new business, the new ideas, the thoughts about business, thoughts about things to do, perhaps even new beneficial reputation, I need to go through this process. And so the challenge for me is to be the Fool, right? The Fool. The Fool. Here we have a beautiful image of the Fool, which is an androgen, right? Both male and female in one body. We've got the dog at the feet. We've got the chakras, planets in the chakras. We've got the sun here near the solar plexus chakra. But we've also got a sun up here in the heart chakra. We've got another, they all look like suns to me, but another sun image in the root chakra. Fire down below. We've got the sun and the moon up in the sky. It's just a gorgeous Fool card. Reminiscent of, actually, the World card in some other decks. I know we don't have the evangelists or the four winds or the four zodiacal signs around the corners, but we got this figure in the middle of a wreath, right? And the association of the Fool in this deck is the sun, which is cool because the sun is the domicile of Leo, and that's me. I am Leo. My sun sign is Leo, which is cool because Leo is the house of the sun. I've always thought that was just the coolest thing. So the Fool points to the sun, which is the Dhamma, which resides in Leo, from which these solar vital attributes and fixed fire attributes enter our world, enter our lives, enter the answer to the question. And I'm being pointed to, the challenge is to be me, perhaps. Yeah, to be myself, to really be myself, not this constructed self that has been built up over years of living in this physical body, but the self that I was born as. The leonine, playful, radiant, solar self that is here still, encrusted in this other stuff. Now, the Fool is also associated with the letter Tav, Tau, which is a cross. But it's also the final letter which moves us into the first letter. It's that moving from the end to the beginning. It's the both and. It's both the ending and the beginning. It's that liminal space letter. It's also Ingwaz in the runes, which Ingwaz is the earth god, the god, great god Ing, of fertility, retreat, and growth, which is interesting following this card, which is associated with the womb and the waters of life. Here we have fertility, growth, but the more masculine form of the growth, perhaps. So what does the Fool imply? The Fool always implies the end is embedded in the beginning, or the beginning is embedded in the end. There's no separation between end and beginning, although there is space. Not separation, but there's that liminal space, which is neither beginning or end, which is the Fool. It's access to the infinite potential that is here, because the Fool is dragged down by nothing. Because the Fool is infinite potential, which we all are. You are infinite potential, whether you recognize it or not. I am infinite potential. And I don't recognize it, but I know it. The Fool for God is another image that we get here, I think. The Fool for God is as the Franciscan kind of image of being a fool for God. Being so bathed in the love for and of God that's all that takes up the entirety of the consciousness. And so from us normal human societal perspective, we become the fool. It's living in and for the Holy Spirit, in and for Sophia, in and for the anima mundi. It links the world to the megas, the world which gives us the completion, and yes, we've finished our journey, and the megas was, yes, let's take a step into this world. This card links them both. Self-cultivation lifts up those around us. Yeah, the more we improve, the more we grow, the more we evolve, the more we lift up those who we associate with. Like a bodhisattva. Do you know bodhisattvas? They're the ones who have become enlightened, but instead of moving on to nirvana, they decide to remain back to assist in the enlightenment of the rest of the world. They're the Buddhas of compassion, and the Buddhas of empathy, and the Buddhas of, like, the Marys of the Buddhist realm. Yeah. What Mary is to most Catholics, the Bodhisattva, I believe, is to the Buddhists. Not exactly the same, but there is a similar role that I think they both play. So that's my challenge, and that I think is a positive challenge, to be more fully the eternal being that is here, co-creating this beautiful body and this beautiful life that I'm living, and in all of its ups and downs and convoluted ways of moving through time and space, still that eternal being is here, and the challenge is to open to that. And so the advice is the Three of Wands reversed. Now let me show you the Three of Wands upright. Here we see what looks like a three-headed snake wrapped around a tree with three wands on this side of the card, I believe, right? No, the cards, they're on this side of the card. And you can see at the bottom, we've got Aries again, right? We've got Aries and Jupiter, because the Three of Wands points to this, I'm sorry, not, yes, no, I'm okay. The Three of Wands points to the Sagittarius decadent of Aries and its sub-ruler Jupiter, from which the mutable aspect of cardinal fire's vital attributes enter our world and enter the question that we're posing to the tarot. So this is the third decadent of Aries. We started off with the first decadent in the card for the day. Here we are, as the advice, is the third decadent, but it's reversed. It's revised. And because it's reversed, it's not the exaltation of Mars in Capricorn, but rather it is the fall of Mars in Cancer. Not the best of placements. So we still got the idea of Mars beaming through the Sagittarius house of Aries. I'm sorry, not Mars. Jupiter beaming through the Sagittarius house of Aries into our lives, but kind of cramped off. And we've got Mars stuck in the water of Cancer. So what do we get here? What do we get here with this three-headed serpent stuck upside down? Well, it means that our motivation, either the motivation of our team, our group, our people, or our individual focus, might be a little bit weak here. It might be difficult for us to organize our Martian energy in Cancer's wet blanket kind of atmosphere. Perhaps the advice is to find a spiritually significant and inspiring cause to follow, a movement, so that we can stay motivated. Find something that will draw us out into action, into activity. Because right now we're kind of, because what we're experiencing right now is not getting us going on its own. So we're asked to find something. And it could be finding things to just keep us busy. It could be finding someone that we can that we can follow and draw some of our motivation from. Not like a vampire, but as we serve someone else who is active, we can become activated as well. We can start not sapping their energy, but rising to the occasion is more like it, right? So that's my advice, I believe. And that makes sense for me, particularly being this day of the week and what kind of how I've been feeling. So let me tell you how I've been feeling. Well, today was not a bad day. Today was a decent day. Woke up, made some pancakes, and watched a movie. And I did stayed busy, right? And in the evening, I did some chores. I make for cultured vegetables is the technical term for what it is. I culture vegetables, wild fermented cultured vegetables. I call it my fusion kimchi. I call it kimchi maison tomate because it's my own version of it. It's based on I draw some of the like the red pepper, the spicy green peppers, the ginger, that kind of stuff from kimchi recipes, and I add my own stuff. I also add some Korean ingredients, and I add some less Korean ingredients, and it's a fusion mashup that I culture, and so I call it my kimchi. So I do one batch every like 3 or 4 months, and it was time for me to make a new batch, and so I made my new batch tonight. Yes, this evening. I also tried a new not a recipe so much, but a new method for doing my sourdough bread. And I think it kind of worked okay. We'll have to see. I don't eat it the same day I bake it. I want it to set. I want the structure to be formed, so I'll taste it tomorrow. Yeah, this is a different way. And I'm also thinking of employing a different way of maintaining and using my starter. So I don't know, maybe that's part of the Ace of Wands thing that was happening for me, that new activity of doing my kimchi and new ways of handling my sourdough bread, perhaps. Perhaps that's my transformation. The transformation of things dying is my sourdough starter, maybe. But I'm hoping that there's more to it than that. I'm hoping that yesterday's Magus and today's Ace of Wands are pointing in the direction of a revitalization of what I'm doing here on the planet a little bit, if not a lot. And I'm not really sure what that's going to be. Hopefully that will reveal itself to me as perhaps I try to embody myself more, as is indicated in this Fool card, which I've had before fairly recently. I like the Fool. I like the Fool a lot. I like the idea of being a fool for God. I like the idea of just being that innocent and knowing the potential and being ready to take that next step. That's kind of exciting, isn't it? Don't you think so? Let me know in the comments below. Let me know what you think. Does this reading make sense? If you want, well, here, I'm going to show you a picture. I just took a photo of the sourdough loaves that I baked. They're not spectacular. They're not bakery quality. They're not YouTube artisanal bakery kind of. I do this at home. I do my own levain, my own all those terms. I know them, but they're not coming out. It's not that. It's not that. This is just as quick and dirty as I can possibly do it, as easily as I can possibly do it, that still gets results that I'm happy with. And so let me show you that picture right now. Those were my 2 loaves, my 2 small loaves. And I'll probably go through those in 4 days, maybe 3 days probably. And so that's it. That's my life. Thank you for being here. If you're still here, hit that thumbs up button so that YouTube knows that you got something out of this and other people might get something out of it as well. It helps the channel. And if you haven't already, subscribe to the channel and hit that alarm bell so you get notifications. And comment below. I would really love to hear from you. What do you think? Have you gotten anything out of this series? If you've been following along, let me know. If you want to get this deck, there is a link in the description box below. If you want to get the color version of the Egyptian Tarot, there is a link in the description box below. I recommend getting both of these decks. They have helped me grow as a reader immensely in a very short period of time. And I think they can help everybody. So get these decks. And if you want a reading from me, my email address is below. thehangedmaninthemoon@gmail.com. Send me an email. We'll get you a reading. So friends, thank you very much. And as always, I wish you love, joy, well-being, and pure awareness. Thank you.